Style for Life. I'm Stephanie Rumble, fashion stylist, accountability coach, and your guide to feeling good in your body and your clothes. Based in Christchurch, New Zealand, I bring over 3 decades of experience in fashion, fitness, and wellness to help you feel strong, stylish, and self-assured. Together we'll explore the emotional, physical, and practical sides of style, because true confidence starts from within. No matter your age or size, you deserve to feel confident and show up as the best version of you. I truly believe this. This is Style for Life.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the podcast today. It's been a week since I was here, and last week we had a really great conversation with Claire Maxfield about using AI and also looking at it with styling, and that was very interesting, learning about the progression of that and where it's at and how it fits into our potentially into our daily life going forward, and looking at the future of AI in the styling space. But today I'm back talking about style again, and something that's come up for me quite a lot lately and also up for quite a few of my clients. And interestingly, I was talking about this with my daughter earlier today, or actually it was yesterday, around her comments around this too. And I'm talking here about what we do and how to layer. Now, I did do a podcast on the 27th of June in 2025 about layering, but this time I just thought I would use the video I have now, which I didn't have then, to show you how it's done, and also talk a bit more about how to really get your clothes to extend from winter to summer. So for those of you who are listening from another place in the world, in New Zealand we have, or especially in the south of New Zealand, we have very distinct seasons. So we have a very cold winter in the south, quite a cold winter. I think we can get down to 0 degrees, and sometimes the days don't get much above that, and sometimes into the negatives. Not as cold as some of our northern hemisphere counterparts, but can be very cold through the winter. We have spring, which can be also quite chilly, but then we can have bursts of really hot weather, which mean that it actually feels like it's summer's here, and then the next day we can be straight back again and it's cold and wintry again, so that we have a lot of variation in the spring. And recently we've had terrible summers where it's been quite cold, but if things are going well, the weather gods are smiling, our summers are quite warm. So what we would wear in the winter would not even be taken out in the summer. And then our autumn is very temperate. So our autumn this year has been quite temperate, quite lovely, quite still, and relatively warm comparatively to spring. So, but then we do get very cold bursts in there too. So we kind of have to have a whole gamut for a wardrobe. We have to have clothes that do us, one day it could be 5 degrees, 6 degrees, the next day it could be 21. So we need to have quite a big wardrobe to deal with that. And also, we're not living in a climate like many of our northern hemisphere counterparts are, where we have a lot of indoor heating. So our houses are insulated, but nowhere near as well insulated as our, as I said, our northern hemisphere counterparts. So yeah, so there's lots to think about and consider. So I think the focus today on the podcast is, how do I get my summer clothes to work in winter? And I'm not really going to say my winter clothes in summer, because there's no, unless it's really, really cold in summer, which it can be. So some of our very heavy winter clothes don't work so well in summer, but some of our summer clothes can extend into winter too. And we also need to know how to put lots of different things on. And this is a problem that many people have. So just this morning, I was at my client's house and we were talking about her wardrobe, which was, we were auditing, or going shopping next week, and we were discussing, she said, I get very cold. So she had like about 10 big thick jackets and coats, like big puffer jackets. Like I think she had 5 puffer jackets, all different lengths and weights and stuff, all black. And all different, different for different reasons. And this is what happens. And she just would shove one of those on when she's cold. So, if she took that off, she'd be freezing, because there'd only be something small and thin underneath. So it's about, how do we get those bottom layers right, so that we can still keep wearing our nice clothes through those cooler months and even longer. And then how do we put on things like this shirt I'm wearing today? It's a World cotton shirt. I'm just wearing it on its own. I don't have any warm layers underneath it today because it's a warm day. I'm wearing it with a pair of trousers. So those of you who are watching will be able to see I've got some Q trousers on. These are current season. They're quite wide, they're quite flowy, and they have a very wide leg. and there's some boots as well. So I've got boots on. I might wear the same shirt on a warmer day, unbuttoned with a singlet underneath it and the sleeves rolled up, and then I might wear sandals with the trousers. So it's about having clothes that go between the seasons as well. So the trousers I'm wearing are really lightweight. So in the summer I could still wear them quite nicely. In the autumn I'm wearing them. In the winter I could, but I'd need to add things underneath them to make them actually wearable and not too cold. Now, it depends a little bit on where I'm going. So if I'm going to be going into a warm heated room, then it's actually fine to be just wearing something else and putting a big coat on and getting in there. What I mean is wear something like sandals or loafers as opposed to long boots. So let's have a look at what I've got in the rack. We're going to talk through a whole different variety of different things around layering. I'm going to show you how to do it. And I'm going to demonstrate a couple of things with my current outfit just to show you how layers can work when it gets really, really cold. What I haven't got in this podcast today is I haven't used accessories. I've just got some clothes and bits and pieces. I've got a jacket here I need to use. And clothes and bits and pieces, which I'm going to show you with clothes. So you can actually layer further by adding accessories like scarves and hats and gloves when it gets really cold. So first of all, if you're in a slightly temperate climate, so for example, my daughter was telling me she's in Auckland and she was finding that it's just a bit cold for some of her summer pieces, but it's too hot to do what we do down here with all our big coats and scarves. So let's have a look at how we could wear, for example, a t-shirt on a day where it's a bit cool for just the t-shirt, but it's too hot to be wearing big, thick winter coats. So first of all, we'll start off with how I start this process off. So in the winter, or when the weather gets colder, I always wear a singlet. I'm holding up at the moment a cotton singlet. This is quite an old one. It's a navy. Now I have probably about 20 different singlets in different colours. So this in a different weight. So this, I'm holding up a cotton one at the moment. So at this time of the year in autumn where it's not too cold, I would find a cotton singlet would be quite a good option. This kind of cotton singlet could also be worn underneath a shirt like I'm wearing, and the shirt could be unbuttoned, and if it was desperate and it got really hot, I could actually function wearing this singlet as a top. So a lot of my singlets look like this cotton one I'm holding up. So that's one from an old one from Supre. I also have a collection of shorter singlets. Now I'm holding up a cropped singlet. The reason I like these crop singlets, this one's got a wee thread off the bottom, it's being well loved, is because if I'm wearing something and I don't want any bulk around the waist, the crop singlet keeps me warm through the midsection, but it doesn't create any bulk to tuck in around the waist. I know a lot of my ladies want to reduce the bulk in their waistline. So these wee cropped singlets, you don't have to go out in public in them if that's not your jam, but I do like them for that reason. So I can put them under a cropped top. So in the winter, now this is obviously a white one, so I'd go with the black one. I could put one underneath this shorter, more cropped denim piece. So this is a piece that it only comes for me when I'm wearing it just to my waist. And if I wanted to reduce the bulk around my waist, I could wear the cropped one. However, if it's really cold, what I can do with something like this, which is a cropped version, is I can wear a longer singlet, tuck it in, and it's the same color as the top. So if I did lift up and you could see the top lifted up, you could still see the longer singlet tucked into my trousers. So it would mean that the colour's continuous and you don't see skin and I'm still staying warm. So I find in the winter months, part of me that gets quite cold is through my torso. So that's a cropped, normal cropped singlet and a longer singlet. This is also an orange one. I'm just showing you, this is one from Max. It's got a wee trim around the edge. It looks a bit faded. It is a bit. But again, I've collected these singlets over time. This one's quite low in the neck. And the reason I like this is if I'm wearing something that's a bit lower in the neckline, I can have it, you can't even see the singlet. So this might just create a smooth line underneath. The other good thing about these, they do give that slight smoothing effect, if that's what you want underneath your clothes. Now, one of my key staples for the winter months is this. Now I'm holding up a cream icebreaker merino singlet. Now the reason I like these is they are very fine. So the fabric is fine. When you look here, you can. I'm holding it up now. I'm holding my hand. You can see my hand through the fabric. There's lots of different singlets like this on the market. I would opt for a natural fibre. I've shown you 3 cotton ones. This one is a merino one. Now I do have clients who can't wear merino, so I suggest they won't wear silk. Now I also suggest that even if you haven't been able to wear merino, you try one of these.
because they are so unprickly. It's not funny. You'd have no prickling with them. You can't even feel the wool fibres. So I would suggest you try it before you give up on it. If you're one of those people that's like, hell no, I can't wear merino next to my skin, definitely give it a crack, because you might find it does work. So I probably have 4 of these, and or 2 or 3 in cream in different colours, and they are my staple winter piece. Go on under absolutely everything in winter, first thing that goes on. I had got my mother into them, and she's 80, and she wears them probably for 8 months of the year because she feels cold. So I also have a few more feature singlets. So this one here that I'm holding up now is a sparkly gold singlet, and the reason I have this out is because it has thin straps, and also it gives a little bit of interest under a garment. It's hard to see it in the light, and if you're watching, it's a singlet that's a beigey colour with gold thread through it, so it looks a little bit more interesting than a plain singlet. This is quite good if I'm, again, have something open and you can see it underneath, or I just want to wear feature singlet underneath. And then I have a couple more here, another cotton one in yellow, which is the same as the orange one. It's from Max, and it's quite a good piece to wear under things. I wear this a lot underneath my yellow bits and pieces. And then I have another chocolate brown merino singlet. I prefer this to my black. I have a black one too, but the chocolate brown's been getting a lot of outings lately, just because I'm wearing a lot more in those neutral shades. So these are the first garment that goes on for me in the winter. So if I was to wear, for example, something like this, now I'm holding up a t-shirt. This is a t-shirt I've had for a number of years. It's from World. Usually World tells me the year, but not this one. So this is a short sleeve t-shirt. It's a medium weight, so on its own, on a warm day, it will be perfectly adequate. If it was a cold day and I just wanted an extra layer, just purely for warmth, I would add the merino singlet underneath, which you would never even see. Now, if it was a cold day and I didn't think the merino singlet would be enough, and I didn't want to have lots of things over it because it's got quite wide sleeves, number 1 layer would be the merino singlet. Number 2 layer would be one of these merino singlets. Now this one's a long sleeve piece. So this one here is cream. Now I'm wearing cream because it's cream in the top. It does look a little bit underwearish. So if I wanted it to be something a little bit more in line with the top, I might pick up on a yellow underlayer. So you can see now I've popped a gold merino underneath. The merino looks like this. It's from Glassons. So Glassons does these every year. I favour the ones with a wide neck. So these long sleeve base layer tops. So layer 1 for me would have been my merino singlet. Layer 2 would be the long sleeve merino piece. And then layer 3 would be the feature piece, which is my World top. Now, if I was feeling really cold, layer 4 could be something else. So I could add in a few bits and pieces. So there's a few options here on the rack. So it could be I layer on top of it a cream cardigan. Now, to make that all look very interesting, what I would probably do is I'd put the long sleeved yellow piece underneath obviously it would go through the sleeve of my cardigan, but I'd pull the cardigan arm up a little bit so you could see a piece of the yellow out to the end of the sleeve. So when I was wearing it, you had the tie-in together with what I'm wearing, so you could see it all connecting together. So that would be layer 4. So if that was really cold day, layer 5 would be a coat or a jacket. So that's how you can extend a t-shirt or something like that into the winter months when you think it's actually only going to be worn in the summer. When you get hot, I would actually you can literally take this off, which is the t-shirt, and then you can take this top off, which is the yellow piece, and you're still going to be decent in your merino singlet because it's not see-through. See-through, a little bit see-through, but not too bad. And then you can just pop the t-shirt back on. So as the weather warms up, you're still decent enough to remove and add layers. And I do that all the time, especially at this time of the year.
Have you ever wondered how you can be a fashion stylist with access to premium digital styling products? Do you want to be trained by the best in the industry and access these products that reflect fashion styling in 2025? If you do, then Image Innovators is absolutely the choice for you. This is because they have a network of over 1,000 trained fashion stylists worldwide, and when you work with them, you're getting the best of the best. They have evidence-based professional training offered by highly skilled facilitators that help you reach your absolute potential. This is a great alignment with Style for Life,
as I, in my business, have used and endorsed their products for over 10 years with so many happy clients. And I'm really excited to say I'm also offering training to fashion stylists in conjunction with image innovators. So if you're ready to start your fashion styling training journey, then use the code BRIGHTRED25 for 10% off all products.
So today, for those of you who are listening, I'm actually wearing my ice cream shirt, which I've had for a long time. It's from World as well. I tend to like World clothing. And my ice cream shirt is cotton weight. It's quite close fitting to the body. And as I said, if it's a cold day, I would wear a singlet underneath. Now, if I was wanting another layer, because it could be way too cold for just a singlet and the shirt here in Christchurch, I may add another layer, which is the jersey. So I'm going to show you how the jersey works. So this is a jersey from Max. I've had this probably 2 or 3 years. So if I was going to pop the jersey on top as another layer so that it looks nice, I would pop it on as I'm doing now. And I've got it on with the trousers. Now, to give it a little bit of interest and stop it feeling kind of claustrophobic underneath. So at the moment, I've just popped the jersey on, which looks fine. But what I would do is I'd pull up the sleeve of the jersey and show the cuff of the shirt at the bottom to give it some interest. So you can see I'm styling it here with the cuff at the bottom. On the other side, do the same. So I've got the cuff just showing nicely. So you're starting to get interest. And then what I'd do, I'd come to the neckline of the shirt, and I'd pull the neckline of the shirt. I've got a wee bow tie on too in the same fabric. I'd pull the neckline of the shirt over the top of the jersey. I'd take the top of the jersey, the edge of the jersey, or sweater, and tuck it into the belt of my trousers. So now I've created a wee bit more interest in my outfit, and I'm still warm, right? Now, if I was still cold, which I could be in winter in New Zealand, I might add a jacket on top of the jersey. So now I'm adding another piece. So I'm adding a jersey, and you've got to make sure with these jackets I've got enough room in the sleeve for the sweater to go underneath, and this one does. And I've got the jacket on top, I've got the bow tie, the shirt, and everything underneath, and I just keep the sleeves like this. And then I have plenty of layers to take off as it gets warm. So that's the thing. And the really good thing about the moment in fashion, I'm just going to take the jersey off or the sweater off because it's getting quite warm, is that cardigans are really in fashion. So if you want to create a look where you want to be able to see the feature piece underneath, so for example, you might want to see a shirt. Now I've picked up here, I've picked up a skivvy or a turtleneck top. This is just from H&M. It's a few years old. It's a print. It's got a black background, but generally colours in the print are pretty good for me. Now, if I was to wear this in the middle of the winter, it's quite thin. So it's a fine knit, I think, with just quite a fine fabric. So quite good on its own on a day where it's not super, super cold, but it was probably going to be too cold for me in the winter. So again, I would take my short sleeve singlet, and then I would add underneath it my long sleeved layering piece, and then I put the turtleneck over the top. Now, very likely in the middle of the winter here in Christchurch, that won't be warm enough, right? So what I would then add on top of that, I do have a cardigan here. So this is a Matilda cardi from Ruby. Oh my gosh, I love them. There's some new ones coming out with zips in them, which I really would like one of. So you can see here, I've picked up a colour in the print. So it's a turtleneck with a floral on it. It's got a whole lot of red and pink in it. I've popped on top my red Matilda cardi, which is really cute, and you could pair that up with a pair of jeans. And then I could add another layer on top of that if I needed to. So a coat or jacket. I don't have one here that I want to put on top, but I could add another layer. In fact, I have got a fluffy vest. So if I really wanted to, I could pop the fluffy vest on top, and then we have another layer too. Actually, that's quite a lot with the floral. I don't know if it works super well, but it's just another option. So let me show you how the fluffy vest could work, because that is actually a really good way of keeping warm. So if you're in a climate where it can be really cold in the morning, but get really hot in the afternoon, and that's exactly what we're faced with here in Christchurch, you definitely need to be able to take the layers off. So, again, I'm wearing a cotton shirt, and I could add on top a cardigan. So I've just pulled out a couple of warm cardis from my wardrobe. So I might add this cream one. I bought this one in the burning heat in Spain. I was like, oh, how am I ever going to want that cardigan? I knew it was going to be great for me. So it's a cardigan, cream cardigan. I've put it on over my ice cream shirt. Looks okay, right? It would keep me warm, but I also might want to add on top of my pink bomber jacket. So again, before I showed you with a jersey underneath, now I'm showing you a cardigan. This is a bit tighter in the sleeves, so it's a little bit less comfortable, but it still works on a cold day. I'd be quite happy in that. So I've popped a pink cardigan on top, a pink bomber jacket on top of the cardigan. So think of yourself as adding pieces to your outfit so that you're actually able to stay warm, you're able to stay comfortable when the weather gets cold. So I've got a whole lot of those mid layers to show you here on the rack, and I've pulled them out because sometimes it can be really hard to know what to buy. And first of all, I did show you all of the singlets, which we've talked about, which are over here, all of the different colours and fibre contents or different compositions. But I now have some base layer, mid layers to show you. So I've shown you the lightweight polar necks. These are both H&M ones. One's a red fine print, one's slightly bigger, olive and brown print. They've been around for a few years. They bring them out most years. Really, really good to put underneath jerseys to give, or sweaters to give them a bit of interest as well. So you can imagine this one I'm holding up has an olive green background and it has brown and yellow flowers on it or leaves, and popping this underneath a bright yellow jersey looks really cool. So you can pull the sleeves and the neck out and it gives it a bit of interest. So that's a really good feature mid layer. I have a whole lot of what we call mesh. So I love a good mesh. Mesh is a great thing to put underneath a summer top. So for example, a short sleeve top, you can just pop a mesh underneath it, and the mesh is it's got a little bit of, you can see through it, so it's not completely opaque. You can see through it, and it's a nice warm layer. So this is one from World. I've got a couple of these. I've got a green one, and I also have a yellow one. So these are kind of colourful ones. I encourage you to invest in them. These have both had really long sleeves, but I liked the sleeve shorter, so I cut the sleeve off. So what else do I have in mesh? I also purchased last year, and I love this, a leopard print mesh. Now, people often think that leopard print is super out there. It's super on trend, by the way. It's still everywhere. And this is the mesh. I'm so happy I bought it. It's from Lolly's Laundry, and I think it's actually come back in again. I bought this from Biani Treasure Box, and the reason I like this is it goes underneath every colour. So if I show you a couple of options here, so I'm using a mesh leopard print in browns, and now I'm popping it underneath a red cardigan, and it looks really nice. And I could have underneath this mesh, I could have a long sleeve black merino and a singlet. So I'm quite warm, and I've still got a really interesting layer underneath. So it can go underneath something like that. Underneath the cardigan, it can go underneath the top. I just don't think I've pulled one that's going to work. So a plain coloured top would look really nice underneath as well. So you just have the sleeves coming out. In fact, I wore it in the weekend, and I'm just trying to remember what I wore it with, but it was a bit more of a feature piece. I had it with my khaki suit. So I wore a khaki jacket and a khaki pair of trousers and had this sort of coming out as a short sleeve suit. So that was really cool underneath it. So mesh works really nicely. Also, I've pulled out a couple of lace pieces. So these have been around for a while. I think they're both Glassons. Oh no, one's Max. The chocolate brown one is Max, and the orange one is Glassons. So again, these are like mesh, and I've collected them. They're not expensive. So I'm holding up a terracotta mesh from Glassons and a chocolate brown from Max. And you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that they're quite transparent. So underneath one of these, I would need to add, if I wanted to be modest, I'd need to add a singlet. So this chocolate brown icebreaker singlet I would put underneath the Max piece, and I have a good collection of singlets. And either I'd go nude if I didn't have a good collection, which some people may not have a good collection of singlets like me. This isn't the right orange, but I do have a terracotta orange that would go under this. So I tend to collect singlets and mid layers when I see them. So I encourage you to do the same, and they last a long time in your wardrobe. So those are the mesh pieces. I think there's a couple more actually. So I'm holding one up on the right hand side. This one here is a red mesh, and I've worn this quite a bit underneath a slip dress. So I've got a beautiful slip dress from Silk Laundry, which I love, and I put a red singlet underneath, this on top, the slip dress over the top, and it just gives me another layer in our cool climate and looks quite funky under the slip dress. And because it's mesh, it works well with the fine silk dresses and fabrics, as opposed to being too heavy like a merino would be underneath one of those fine dresses. So the weight of the fabric lends itself nicely to the finer summer fabrics to give you trans-seasonal piece that works really well when the weather gets cold. And then I've pulled out a couple more as well before I get into the heavy layers. And these ones have a turtleneck, and they, again, I've got a white one on the right-hand side, and the make, I think, is 2-2. I can't remember actually where it's from. And the one on the right-hand side, I think they're both the same brand, actually. I ordered them online. One's navy, one is cream, and they're nice tops on their own. So if you were to wear these in the winter, just with a nice nude bra underneath it, or if you want to wear a lace bra for your boots, and they look quite nice under things too. So they're a turtleneck, they've got a mesh pattern on them, so the navy one's got spots, and the white one is more of a lace. So they are layering pieces that feature in my wardrobe quite heavily in the winter. Now, when it gets really cold, I have a collection of merino warm layers. I've only pulled a few out here, but I have some merino turtlenecks from Glassons. I tend to favour full length ones because I get cold in the midsection. And if they're cropped in the winter, in our climate here in the south, it doesn't work. However, in the north, a cropped version can be really good. I encourage you to buy some of these merino layers, and again, watch the necklines. So the merino layers work well when the necklines are low, unless you want the feature neckline of a turtleneck. So the lower neckline means they can go underneath dresses, tops, t-shirts, other things that don't necessarily have a super high neckline like a shirt that buttons right up. And it means they can go underneath something, they can be disappeared, but they also give you that extra layer of interest and warmth. So that's my rack of options. I think I pulled out before very briefly this icebreaker layer. Now I have two different weights of these. This is a cream long sleeve merino again. This is a thick one, so on a really cold day I'd wear this. It also comes in a slightly lighter weight. This is black, very hard to see in the video, but it has a wee V-neck on it, so lower in the neckline again, and very fine merino. One's 150 weight, and the other's 200. So when you're shopping for these things, check out the different weights of merino, and you can purchase them. I also purchased this one here, which is, again, it's black, it's really hard to see. It's a ribbed version, and it's actually cotton. So sometimes I find the black merino just a bit hot, especially if I'm shopping. So this one is a black, but it's also in a rib. So it's one of the only black tops I own. But it's a really good layering piece as well. Now on the rack here, I have a couple of other things to show you. I also pulled out this top here. And again, if any of you are watching, this is a brown top with yellow leaves on it. It's a Karamorka top. I've had it for a really long time. I often wear this in the middle of the winter. In fact, I travelled with this in 2019 overseas when I went to Europe, and it was cold. I went in April. And so I took with me the merino piece. This is the piece I wore underneath it. And literally you could just had a wee hint of sleeve at the bottom. We could even push the sleeve up, and you could see a wee hint of it in the front because it opens up there through the front, and it was so good. And I actually also remember now, I took a skivvy. I have a turtleneck merino that I took to wear underneath this sort of more loose fitting shirt. So these aerated silky layers that are not see-through, that are quite opaque, work really nicely with the merino underneath through those cold winter months. There's another thing I do in the middle of the winter. So you are wearing wide-legged trousers like I am today. I actually should stand up and show you. So I'm wearing wide-legged trousers. You can see them. They are really wide. Now underneath my trousers, I just have boots, and these are my legs. And they're short boots. And today that's really comfortable and perfectly fine. But as the months get colder and colder, I find my legs get really, really cold. So if I don't wear boots, I have a pair of extra long icebreaker socks. Now these socks come up to my knees. I think they might have been designed for skiing, and you can still buy them because I've had a client buy them. And I wear these, and I pull the socks up to under my knees, and my legs are really warm in wide-legged trousers. When we had the fashion of tighter fitting trousers, our pants were fine with just short socks, but I cannot wear bare feet inside shoes. And so these would be more worn inside boots. If I want a feature sock, so I want to have a sock that looks nice inside a loafer, then I would put it over these. I also wear these long socks sometimes over stockings, and then I wear long boots, and that's another way to stay warm. So anyway, we've talked quite a lot now about how to get your clothes to extend through the seasons with all of the different layers. Hopefully this is built on what we did last year, so you have got some visuals around it. If you have listened, I strongly encourage you to jump onto YouTube and watch this podcast, because you'll see all of the clothes I've shown you and how it all works together. So I hope that's useful, because layering means your clothes go further, you have more to offer, and your wardrobe has some depths. So kia kaha, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast, Style for Life. I really appreciate you. I appreciate the effort you make to listen. And please do hit follow and subscribe to this podcast, because the more people that follow, the wider it gets and the more the style message gets out to everybody. So I thank you. I'm grateful to all of you for listening. And please do make suggestions about what you would like on the podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Style for Life podcast. Don't forget, you deserve to feel fabulous at every age, every stage, and at every size. If you're loving the show, hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps more amazing people like you find their way back to life through style. Thanks again. Until next time.